Okay, how we doing, folks? Today is Sunday, March 5th, 2017. Rich Fantastic with you, giving you our weekly NBA report. Starting, of course, in the Eastern Conference. The Cleveland Cavaliers still setting the pace. They lost last night to the Miami Heat, which now puts the Boston Celtics in a position to get to 2.5 games behind the Cleveland Cavaliers today. The Celtics are playing later on at 5 o'clock. They're still on the West Coast. We're going to do a Celtics report later after that game. But just interesting that Cleveland, they were resting a lot of their guys last night. Let's see how focused they are for the number one overall spot. And it's one of the reasons why there was discussion, not necessarily in the article, but I was seeing comments about after Adam Silver said way to fix the All-Star game is to put home court advantage on the line for the All-Star game. I don't know if that would be a fix necessarily because teams don't even play that. I mean, they rest guys or that was home court advantage in the finals, like they do in Major League Baseball with the All Star game. Teams don't even care about the conference finals, so I'm not sure that would make the difference, but we'll see what happens moving forward. That was just an interesting note. The Celtics, as we said, they are still on the West Coast. They have a game later on trying to catch the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'll go more into depth with the Celtics later. For those not getting the Celtics report, they're now starting. They've got a few games under the belt after the All-Star game. They have Avery Bradley back. He's played a few games. They, of course, beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the Celtics become very interesting now that they will hope have their assortment of players for the rest of the season and what they can do moving forward. Injuries have really kept all their guys off the court, so we'll have to check that out. But that's certainly the big thing with the Celtics now is if they can continue to be healthy and have all the guys playing and clicking what noise they can make because they really haven't had their full complement the whole season. Washington, of course, 5.5 games back. They're 36-24. They lost. What was it last night? They lost, or it was the other night to drop down a game. Yeah, it was 2 nights ago. They lost the game, so they're 36-24, 5.5 behind the Cleveland Cavaliers, 3 back behind the Celtics for the second spot. Washington is playing today, I believe. They are. Washington, I was certain was playing today. I guess not. I looked at it before. No, excuse me. I'm looking at the wrong date. Washington is playing. They're playing the Orlando Magic later, so should be a pretty easy game for them. The Toronto Raptors, they're still only 5-5 in the last 10. They added Serge Ibaka. They're at 37-26. I'm a little confused with the Toronto Raptors. Of course, they lost last night to the Milwaukee Bucks. You do have Kyle Lowry out, but they're showing signs that they can win without him. Then they're showing signs that they start to lose. So, um, I'm not too convinced about Toronto. That's a team I picked to go to the finals from the Eastern Conference, but injuries, some inconsistent play have really hurt them thus far. And Atlanta rounds out the top five. They're really the only teams that you can look at and say almost certainly are going to finish above 500 in the Eastern Conference. They're 34-27. 4-6 on the last 10. However, Mike Budenholzer has been suspended for a game. They've got a game against the Indiana Pacers, who are one behind them. 31-10. Indiana 2-8 in their last 10. They really continue to struggle. I'm very surprised by that. Jeff Teague, 8.1 assists. He's putting up good numbers, 15.3, 8.1. That's well above his career highs. But granted, early in his career, he didn't get off to, very, high starts. He was, kind of milked along, brought along in time for his career. So that was one of the things where you look at his numbers. Like early on, he was averaging 3.2 his first season, 5.2 his second season. Hardly getting any minutes. He was under 15 minutes. Then once he went about 30 minutes, 12.6, 14.6, and 16.5 points. His assists, right at 5, then over 7, and all those things. You look at his last 3 years: 15.97 assists, 15.76 assists, 15.3, 8.1 assists. So his numbers are consistent. Indiana is just one of those teams that has. It happens to some NBA teams. We've seen it with the Charlotte Hornets, who we'll discuss in a little bit as well. They just seem to go downhill for whatever reason it is, and then they can't get it together. They're 2-8 in their last 10. Lost a tough one to the San Antonio Spurs in overtime, so we'll have to keep a look what they can do. But that's an interesting game tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. Then you got the Chicago Bulls, 31-31, 5-5 in the last 10. They lost last night to the Los Angeles Clippers at home. Detroit, 30-32, 6-4 in their last 10. Detroit, there are a lot of guys on that team who are quality players. It starts, of course, with Andre Drummond, who's putting up good numbers, don't get me wrong, but he struggles from the free throw line, not necessarily the polished offensive player as of yet. And then you got the other guys, the Tobias Harrises of the world, very good complementary pieces, but Andre Drummond is your best player, but he's not really a guy who you can rely on offensively because his game's not polished and he struggles with the free throw shooting. Reggie Jackson is a good player, of course. He's probably their best offensive player. But even him, 14.8, 5.4. They're just a little bit below everything. They were in the playoffs last year. Of course, they have a good coach. I'd like to see how they go the rest of the way. Miami, who got the win last night, they were 11-30. They are 18-4 since then. They're only 1.5 behind the Pistons for the last playoff spot. Keep an eye on them. Milwaukee, winners of 2 straight. They got the win last night over Toronto. They're only 1.5 out, 6-4 in the last 10. Again, a lot of inconsistency with these teams. Charlotte was able to get a win last night. They're still 3-7 in the last 10. I believe they were 14-10 at one point. They've been 13-25. Charlotte, to me, is the best of those teams, 8 through 12. I don't know why they can't get it together. Knicks, 25-37. They got the Warriors today. Let's see. That's basically last stand time. If they get the win, I could see them making a run because no one's running away with that 8 spot, but don't count on it. Then Magic, 76ers, Brooklyn Nets, all bad teams, of course. The 76ers have shut down Ben Simmons. They traded Nerlens Noel. So while they got to 23 wins, impressive in that regard, they're still starting to fade. Golden State, 50-11. They've lost 2 straight. They're going to try to avoid the 3 straight loss tonight. This is in the Western Conference, of course. We have Kevin Durant. We did the video on that. Check that out in regards to his injury. San Antonio, 48-13. They got a win over Minnesota last night in overtime. They won now back-to-back overtime games. I was actually watching the end of that game. 7 straight 9-1 in the last 10. 2 behind the Golden State Warriors, and San Antonio and Golden State have both clinched playoff spots. As far as the Spurs, they're a team that I don't think necessarily goes for the best record. As we just discussed with Cleveland and everything, how teams rest. So I'm still not convinced they'll be able to get it. And I think Golden State's going to win today against the Knicks, but we'll have to see. Let's see how much San Antonio wants that spot. They're a good team. They're really moving along. Kawhi Leonard is, of course, putting up big-time numbers this year. We know his exploits. We know how good of a player he is. So keep an eye on that. But I just, 26.1, 3.4, 6 rebounds per game for Kawhi Leonard. I'm just not convinced the Spurs want the top spot. It's that important to them. Houston, 44-19. They are 7 behind Golden State, 5 behind San Antonio, and 5.5 above Utah for that 3rd spot. So they're essentially locked in to the 3rd spot, that is. Let's see how they continue to play the rest of the season. Mike D'Antoni said he wants to put up a lot of threes. He's looking for 50 threes per game. So that may be something they're going to do because, like we said, they're essentially locked into that 3rd spot. They can't go up, can't really go down. So they can tinker with some things and try to get things figured out. Harden, 28.8, 11.3, 8 rebounds per game, still playing very well. Utah, Clippers, Memphis Grizzlies, and Oklahoma City Thunders. Team 4 through 7 separated by 3 games. Really anything can go either way. Utah 5-5 in the last 10. Clippers 6-4 in the last 10. Grizzlies 5-5. Oklahoma City Thunder 5-5. The Jazz and Clippers are on 1-game winning streaks. You can't really say 1 game. The Grizzlies and Thunders are both on 2-game losing streaks. And like we said, the Clippers the only team 6-4, everyone else 5-5. So that is a muddled mess there. Keep an eye on that. Really could go either way. And of those teams, I'd say the Clippers, they have the personnel to give teams fits. Utah is an up-and-coming team, but I don't really see them being much of a hassle to any of the top teams. And, of course, the Memphis Grizzlies are very polished. They're a professional team. They could give a run to a team like Houston if they finish in the 6th spot, or even San Antonio and Oklahoma City. At 7, let's say they finish 2 and play San Antonio. They could make things interesting there. So a lot of things to be decided. Then you have Denver in the 8th spot, 28 and 34. Portland at 26 and 35 is a game and a half back. Portland again continues to disappoint. I was expecting a lot more from them this year. Obviously, Damian Lillard, all those guys, especially the addition of Evan Turner. He's been hurt. Let's see if he can come back. But as of right now, they still have a chance. But I got to tell you, I really have to give the Denver Nuggets credit for hanging in there. You look at the Portland Trailblazers, Damian Lillard, 26 points, just under 6 assists. He really hasn't brought his best game this year. Those are still quality numbers, but fading a bit. But Denver has hung in there. I got to give them credit. I figured they'd fade at some point. Sacramento 25 and 36. They're 1.5 back. Dallas, same situation. Minnesota, boy, they had a chance. They've actually been coming on of late. They're now 6 and 4 in the last 10. They played tough against the Spurs last night, but lost the game. New Orleans doesn't look like they're going to do much. They're 24 and 38. 4 out. It's just not working as of now with Cousins and Anthony Davis. They have had a tough schedule. Phoenix 20 and 42, the Lakers 19 and 43 to round out the West. Okay, quickly your power rankings. I'm going to give San Antonio the top spot. They're winners of 7 straight. And Golden State has lost 2 straight. Golden State number 2, Cleveland Cavaliers number 3, Houston Rockets number 4, and the Boston Celtics got to give them the 5 spot. All right, so of course the Celtics report will come after their game they're playing at 5 Eastern. Going to probably do an NBA in depth at some point today and a player focus as well. Just got to get those to you. It's not easy with the phone and uploading everything, but we'll have them once those come about. So be sure to stay tuned. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks so much.